So, good evening, everybody. Thank you so much for coming. Some others may arrive a little later. Knowing this performance is sort of a chain of very short stories, sometimes directly connected, sometimes connected just by their subjects. And first, I would like to ask our rector and president, Michael Ignatieff, who very kindly came again, as for the last performance, and very much support very kindly the performance, to say some welcoming remarks. Thank you so much, Michael.
Well, you have most definitely not come to hear me or see me, so I'll be as brief as I can. This is an evening that I care about a lot, because it's an opportunity for the heart and soul of this place, which are students, to talk about their experience, and sometimes talk about some things that are hard to talk about, tough to talk about, ambiguous to talk about, exposing to talk about. I don't know what they're going to talk about, by the way, so I kind of made that up, but on the basis of last year, that's what it was. And I came last year, and it meant a lot to me as rector and president. I saw the world, I saw CEU, I saw Budapest, I saw Hungary through the eyes of the heart, soul of the place. That is, through the eyes of students who come here from 120 countries. Let's remember, there's no we in this room. We make this we in the course of a year together. We come from very different places, very different experiences, sometimes very difficult experiences, which I think we need always at this university to give a place so people can talk about it, so you can hear what life is like, so you can take your own helmet off and put someone else's helmet on for a minute. And that's why I found this valuable. So I turn to the people who are the stars of the night. I thank each one of you on behalf of CEU for doing this. I hope you have a great evening. Let it go, let it fly, go for it. And I hope all of you will listen with attention and respect. And I have two people to thank: Peter Molnar for doing this year after year, thank him for his leadership, and thank Chris Margaritides, for whom he works in the Dean of Students. So without further ado, the evening is yours. Thank you, most of all, for coming.
Thank you so much again, Michael. It means really a lot that you appreciate this performance and support it. And I mentioned again that I think our university is very lucky to have a rector and president who is also a performer himself, in the sense of speaking nicely and spontaneously, and in a way which it's like some people are kind of like sticking, only reading some speeches, and I'm sure you noticed that our rector is not doing that. So thank you so much. And just, I also don't want to speak long before the performance. I just mentioned that what will happen tonight, we will do the show, which will be about an hour long, maybe just a bit longer. And afterwards you can ask questions and say comments, and afterwards we can continue with the conversation with a small reception in the next door atrium in Nador 13 building. And just one short remark, that this is a participatory performance, because you can participate and you don't even have to be brave to do that. It's enough if you want to turn prejudice and hate to appreciation of love and appreciation of our diversity, which is the strongest part of our university. So I really think that's what it is about. And I hope that some of you who will be around in the next academic year, or even this academic year, can think about and will be inspired to join the performance. Thank you, and then let's have it started. the leaves on beautiful trees. People are walking in the morning. What are they doing? Are they daydreaming? Here is a woman. She's lost in her mind, talking to a man. Never, never mind. Hear me, my love. It's so much easier to write about love than about hate. Do you think that a warm smile can shine through prejudice and hate? You say that you cannot tell your parents that you are dating me because I'm a non-violent human rights activist. What would they say if they knew that I'm a gypsy or Jew? What would they say if they knew that I'm a Muslim? What would they say if they knew that I am a refugee? What would they say if they knew that I am a migrant? What would they say if I had brown or black skin? What would they say if I were an atheist? What would they say if I had a nose so much different from yours? Would your people punish you more for your sacred love if you were a girl? Would they burn you as a witch? Would they cut your hair or stone you to death? What would your people do to you if you were gay? My people, I'm not sure about my people. What would they say if I was one of those whom they animalize, plantize, dehumanize by not even apologize? When you say it's so human, you mean hatred of the other, you mean cruelty and darkness, you mean fear of freedom? Or you mean sharing respect, you mean learning from the other, you mean joyful light, you mean freedom from fear? What would they say if they knew that we made love? What would they say if they knew that I wanted you to fuck me? What would they say if they saw that we are so different? Would they understand that we are the same? Same as the water in the river, as leaves on beautiful trees, as people on the New York subway. What would they think and what would they say?
خشب صليب عيسى ما بكاش يوم الصلب. ما تعتمدش على الألم، سحر موسى عليك اتقلب درويش وسط دراويش مقطوع عنها المدد. صعاليق استوطنا الحواري في عالم محدش ملك فيه سند. محدش مهتم إن كنت واعي أو مغيب، صح أو غلط إن كنت صادق أو مزيف. محدش مهتم إن سديت الباب الطوب وانعزلت. محدش هيهتم لو رجعت دلقت جاز على جسمك الهالك وولعت. مليت الحوض أخدت منوم وغرقت عالم بارد بنمشي فيه أفراد، واللي ماشي جنبك ماشي بحب الذات. محدش مهتم بيك أو بغيرك، بس أنا عامل مهتم بيك لأن عيني على في جيبك. هي كده لعبة ديابة وأرانب ونابي أحمق فجر قدامي عشان أصيدك.
More than all the violence I have endured in my life, I have never seen violence like the one I have caused to myself. This poem is a confession. I once released boiling water to my 3-year-old body and watched it melt my limbs into a spiderweb of weeping skin. I once perched my throat at the hip of a toilet seat and dug up the day's lucky lunch. I once made a list of all the ways I am not enough, color-coded it with the names of men who have offered their exquisite violence for free, fed it and nothing else to. I once stood motionless at the tilt of my father's rage, watched his fist's clumsy aim unearth my blood and tuck my broken jaw into a hospital bed. I once blamed myself for it. I once wore that blame like my dead mother's casket, draped it over my denial and hid behind it for a decade, waiting for uncooked grief to find its spring. What I mean to say is, death passes through me soft as a childhood memory, never ever is.
You know, it's easy It's easy to point fingers at others, but it's difficult to point that finger if that other is one of your own. It takes courage to stand up to enemies, but it takes something more than that when that enemy is carrying your own national flag. This was a couple of years ago, where one saw hooligans outside the gates of that university carrying the national flag. They were shouting patriotic slogans and vituperative abuse, demanding blood of the protesters. People who resisted the government, people who spoke out against ultra-nationalist hate, people who spoke out against Islamophobia. You know what? They keep lying. They say a lie said 100 times becomes something, but no, it's still a lie. A lie repeated 1,000,000 times is still a lie, no matter how many national flags you drape over it. And for some of us, we will continue to call out a lie, no matter how many flags you drape around it.
But he loves me. He's always loved me. He loved me when I first saw him as a 16-year-old. He loved me when he told me that we should elope far away from our families and this town. He loved me when we were struggling to make both the ends meet. And he loved me even on the days. But why would he hit you then? But why would he hit you so hard that you get bruises on your face, scars on your neck, scratches on your arm, and a lump in your throat? Maybe because he loves me so much that he can't see me crying. He can't see me stepping out of the house and earning enough for our son's medicine and his daily dose of alcohol. He can't see me screaming and complaining about the drudgeries and hardships of life. He can't see me fighting and losing hope, which he has lost. Maybe he loves me so much that he can't see me living a life beyond him.
On a night out with my friends, a man offers to buy me a drink. We're having a casual chat, and he says, "Where are you from?" "We're in Edmonton in Canada." And I say, "Oh, I'm from a small town just outside of here." He says, No, I mean, where are you really from?" I don't feel like telling my entire life story to a random man on a random night, so I ignore the question. He says, "Oh, it's just that I must be the whitest man that likes the darkest girls." I'm in shock, so I walk away, and I go tell my friends, like, "Guys, this just happened to me." They say, well, sure, the last part was a little bit out of line, but you are exotic." They don't understand. Exotic is maybe a bowl of fruit, or a beach vacation. I'm a person, I'm not exotic. On another night, now in Europe, I was meeting a coworker at a work Christmas party. He, again, asks me, "Where are you from?" I say, "I'm from Canada." He frowns. He's not convinced. But I'm feeling friendly, so I say, "But I was born in Venezuela." He sighs in relief. "Oh, good. I was just about to ask you, what's wrong with your face?"
It all started with one pro-porn feminist from Bosnia who tweeted ironically how it is sexism that people think she eats less tilapia, pieces of grilled minced meat. Then her boyfriend, which showed up in my line, I want to believe that personal and private is also political. Still, I'm usually very shy to do it, and I almost never comment on people's choices of food in private life, except when they ask me about it. However, when they post images and tweets bragging how they eat animals, I find this to be a public speech, public hate speech against animals, and it's easier for me to react. What is important in the context of social movements is how people who participate in them have much more opportunities to think things more critically. We also perceive ourselves as the ones who are critical, committed to the issues of justice, equality, and solidarity, protection of helpless and subaltern. Still, regardless of our activism, unfortunately, we are not divine. As other humans, we tend to have strong motivation not to see our own injustices and how we do not treat others equally, how we are not in solidarity, and how we do not protect helpless and subaltern. Rather, we enjoy eating them. In Serbia, very few feminists decided not to eat animals. Actually, they often post about how they have been eating cevapi and pljeskavica, and that's grilled minced meat, and sarma, cooked minced meat and rice in cabbage, slanina, which is bacon, prosciutto, which is smoked sliced meat. And indeed, most of my friends eat animals. I also did, until recently.
When I was a baby, the doctor injected me a vaccination. My mother had warned him that I was cold. He answered her, "He will be okay. It's normal." He injected me, and in 2 days, the doctors found out that I got inflammation of brain cells. In my vaccination card, the day when I got the vaccination was crossed out, and in red the capitals was written mistake. This mistake, it determined my life. When I was 6 years old, one school wanted to accept handicapped and Roma child. I could speak Czech, I could speak Roma language, I knew names of the colors, I knew the poems, I knew the fairy tales in Czech language, in Roma language, but the handicapped and Roma child, it was something what was taking down my qualities. I'm very happy that my mother, she was fighting, she was begging all the directors in my hometown. And they were advising her like to put me into special school. My mother, she didn't give up, and 2 weeks before the beginning of the school year, she found the elementary school for me. So I could visit normal elementary school.
Have you ever hated someone? I mean, for real. I mean, to the extent when your fist was tightly clenched and the very person's appearance could cause your disgust. Hardly believe. Because hatred is something that all people can feel. But what's different between hatred and love? Why do some people love others and others hate? But even if we can't love, we don't need to. Why is it so an obstacle for us to accept someone's otherness? Does hatred make us powerful? Or it just makes us vulnerable, as it should be, driven by emotions, who assert themselves through others' inferiority? If it is, then, can we say that our identities are possible only through exposing ourselves to the external world? I remember how I used to see a lot of Asian people within the district I lived in. In the 90s, a lot of Asian people immigrated to Ukraine in search for a better life. One family of 10 people lived in a single room in the house I lived. And every time I saw them, I could feel a strange feeling of repulsion. Why did it look so suspicious? And all the time moving together, not speaking to us. But that strange feeling ended when this Vietnamese guy became my best friend. Time passed. I read few articles and watched videos. I discovered that Islam is a religion of hate and violence. How funny it was when it turned out that one of my classmates in university was one of the most kindest person who I remember to nowadays. And no smell of my hatred finished in the Arabic class. What about the homosexual people? As you might guess, to a certain point, I hated them as well. With every person, my world was becoming wider and putting an end to my narrow arrogance. What is the funniest thing? The funniest thing that I'm Roma. Member of one of the most disadvantaged communities. Hatred towards which almost in every society on its people.
It was 2 years, 2 months since she saw him up at the airport. And before he left, the last thing he said to her was, "Will you wait for me? I want to make you my woman once I get back." 2 years, 2 days, she waited. He came back without notifying her. She confronted him, and not only did he say those mean words, she found out that he was already in combat. 2 years of her life. She rejected suitors. 6 years of relationship washed down the drain. And then he told her, "You are too fat for me. I don't have anything to do with fat girls. I like them skinny, like models." 2 years she's been grieving. And up till now, she has refused to let herself love again. And up till now, she is still asking herself, what does it mean to be loved and be left alone?
So, it happened when there was my friend and we went to a bank to deposit some money. Before that, we went to the same exchange booth and almost exchanged the same amount of foreign. So he went first. It took him almost like a minute or so, and I followed him in the same booth with the same cashier. So when I handed him the foreigns, he looked at me. And then he counted the money. And then he started sniffing them. Sniffing them, each of the foreign. He was sniffing. I thought, there's something wrong in it, and I asked him, is there anything wrong? He did not reply. He looked at me scornfully. I asked him again, is there anything wrong? Because I was very confused. This time, he didn't even look at me, and he said, your money smelled weird. I was frozen. Not because I was scared, but because I was shocked. I could not believe that this is happening to me. And I started asking him about my friend because he was just there before me and we had almost same amount of the foreigners with us and we went to the same exchange. But he then again, neither looked at me, he just shrugged and he said, yours funny, smelled weird. And just if you're wondering, my friend has a white skin. And mine, as you can see, is brown. It's ironic indeed because there's this proverb in Hungarian that says, money has no smell. And there I was, standing in the bank for 30 minutes because my money smelled. Or probably that's how racism is smelled.
Can I say something?
Oh, look, wow, the current Hungarian slam poetry champion, the audience award winner of the last European Slam Poetry Championship happened to be in house. Let's see whether he's similar to that guy in the bank.
That wasn't even planned, I swear, you sneaky Peter. None at all, that wasn't planned. So, I've been in Brussels to the European Championship and I wrote a poem for Brussels because we had a campaign last year. Send a message to Brussels so they can understand. Üzenjük Brüsszelnek, hogy ők is megértsék. Send a message to Brussels so they can understand. Beep, beep, beep. We had a campaign last year. In every wall, hundreds and hundreds of billboards covered with broken blue neon lights. In every newspaper thrown away in the streets of Budapest, there was this sentence. Send a message to Brussels so they can understand. Brussels. The physical form of the EU, the wicked propaganda machine, the Satan himself. They make you the enemy. They blame you for being a liberal, Jewish, Muslim-loving, capitalist antichrist. You had become even more evil for them than Darth Vader. At least he was not a hypocrite. He didn't want to spend democracy and equal rights for everyone. Hatred silently crawls under your skin and whispers its rhythms in the eardrums like, fear them, hate them, fear them, hate them, fear them, hate them. You know, controlling by fear eventually leads to hate the controlling one. My homeroom teacher in the kindergarten always said to me that if I don't brush my teeth, a spooky, scary monster who lives under my bed will painfully eat me. To this day, I'm not afraid of monsters, but I hate my homeroom teacher. Beep, beep, send a message to Brussels so they can understand. I was slightly high and kind of drunk when I first saw these posters. My first idea was maybe, if they really want you to understand, they should have written their propaganda in French, Dutch, or at least in English. Or they can just talk to you. You seem like nice guys with ties and black suitcases, sending money for them to Prejudices 2004. And how can you even send a message to a city? It's not like you can go to the I Love Brussels Facebook page and complain about your financial situation or cry about your girlfriend who just broke up with you because after Erasmus studies it's Fine, Sarah, I'm not mad at you anymore, you bitch. Beep, beep, beep. Hungary is like an angry teenager, slamming the door and screaming, "You will never understand me, father." That's what I want to say. After I won the championship, I received a bunch of letters. "Peter, you have to send a message to Brussels. For real. Peter, you have to apologize on the stage for us. You have to tell that half of our friends are washing dishes in a Chinese restaurant in London, changing bedsheets in a love photo room in Berlin." But it's not what I want to say. My only knowledge is about Japanese cartoons and how to get girls with poetry and with my crippling depression. I'm only 4 years younger than the Hungarian democracy. And the Eastern European Jon Snow, I know nothing. All I really want to say, is that I'm not afraid of monsters. They should be. You have one new message. Please, don't open it. Thank you.
Alright, okay, so they put you on stage. Be shy, just look at people, ask them questions as we all rehearsed, okay? You, buddy. Question real quick. Do you know what's going on in Yemen?
Not at all.
Take a guess. Take a wild guess. It's the Middle East. What do you think? Yeah, close enough. Yeah, close enough. I mean, they don't ever show you pictures like these. Or this. Not even this. But what you see is this. And this. And this. So my conclusion is that we tried to be on the media. And since that failed, we started this. That's how we ended up in the media.
She is guilty. Her boyfriend has committed suicide because she questioned his religion. And then she wanted to separate. All she said was, "I'm not ready for marriage. Let's take a break. I'm just not sure. Don't want to continue." His friends thought she was a bad spirit, a force that strayed him away from the straight path. Some stopped greeting her. No one wished her condolences, although she was his closest. No one did anything to defy the circle of guilt around her. Their silence, or sometimes denouncement, crushed her more than the tormenting farewell. He was 20, and she was 22.
So I have a problem with silence. think I have a problem with confidence as well. That's why maybe I'm doing this right now. I tend to talk a lot. I dominate the conversation. Maybe it's about trying to always prove that I'm here, right? That I want you to be sure right now that I'm talking to you. Like, this is my sound, this is me, I have my ideas, my thoughts and everything. You got to be sure of that. So when I was thinking of what should I do right here, like I'm supposed to be on stage in this hate speech monologue, right? So I gotta have like something that's really like making me not being able to sleep every night, and like the problem of Ali, how do you define yourself? Like who are you? Are you that guy who's coming from a city that no one heard about? Or are you gonna be okay with them calling you the brown guy or the brown friend? I've never even thought about being part of minority before coming to Europe, the heaven, right? Okay, so what defines me is are they the borders? Are they my country? Or is it maybe a lovely lady that every time I approach her just to say hi, she thinks that I want to wed her for a passport or something? So I just think that problem with silence again.
I often think about all that came out wrong, and all that fell off the swing of my tongue and didn't get back up. The things I didn't mean to say and the ones I didn't mean not to say. Silence is its own octave of violence. Regret a kind of voiceless death. Like the summer I vowed I was ready to kill the next man who interrupts my body, as tribute to surviving my father. The same summer, I went for an evening jog around my neighborhood in Beirut, when a man who could be my father backed me into the corner of the night and clawed his way down my chest. When I froze at the thunder of his loud eyes and my gutting silence, thinking if I held my breath long enough, I could dissolve gracefully, without siren. When he said, "Do you want more?" And the next breath came out of me an avalanche of vomit like boiling water, unfreezing my burnt feet, and I ran in the direction of my father's house toward a predictable kind of torture. Years later, I wake up to my lover plucking a song from my thighs, her lips dancing to all the words. The sun yawning through the blinds on the first warm weekend after an unreasonable winter. When I finally catch her eye, I say, "I need to know when you will leave." I've watched too many things die. I say, "I'm afraid I do not know how to stay." And my lover's heart lands in my scissor hands. I do not claim the slaughter. Instead, I use her shoulder to wipe the blood off my tongue, then come to her with my dirty mouth and say, "Look what you've done." What I mean to say is I was 10 years old when I watched my mother symphony her breath into an orchestra of pain for one whole year, before she forgot my name and sunk into the bedsheets. When I grew bitter of negotiating with the death roaring out of her throat, and I spoke what I didn't know would be the last words I say to my mother. "Why don't you just die already? Why don't you just die?
You know, speaking the truth, truth takes some courage, but speaking the truth also has some consequences. Like, this is my other inbox on Facebook. They call you so many things: liberal, anti-national, people who don't sympathize with their armed forces because they are critical of the rapes they have done in Kashmir, Manipur, Chhattisgarh and other places. They call you what? Bastard, disgrace, dog, third class, pimp, and so much in so many languages. But then there are persons like myself who actually live to tell their tale. Because privileges of gender, caste, being from the majority community, albeit an atheist, protects persons like me from being lynched on the streets or some of these threats getting carried out in reality, as it has happened with Najib, a student much like myself who just disappeared from a campus, or Rohit Vemula, a student who was institutionally murdered. Privileged persons like myself live to share this story, at least for the time being. So, till the time my privileges protect me, let the world hear. Thank you.
So, you do love me? No. Ah, a soft no is still a yes. No. Come on. You will love me one day. No. I will not let you go till you say a yes. No. Can't you see how much I love you? No. So, you think somebody can love you more than I do? No. How dare you reject my proposal? No. How shameless of you to keep repeating your rejection? No. How heartless of you to not see how much I love you? No. Well, who gave you a right to speak? Can't you understand what I'm saying? Can't you? No! 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 Serves you right. Wish you could see how much I loved you.
So yeah, I was born in Venezuela. I moved to Canada only as a teenager, which means that most of my friends I made here in my high school knew me when I was fresh off the boat, before I spoke English. So imagine my surprise when one day in my senior year, I'm walking with one of my best friends and she says, "Oh, do you know, they keep taking over the hallway. They're so loud. Why is there so many of them now?" I say, Who do you mean?" She says, "Oh, those Venezuelans," that kept coming in the years after I arrived. I ask her, wait, hold up. Like, do you realize who you're talking to? She says, "Well, no, don't worry. I'm not talking about you. You don't count. You're not really Venezuelan anyway. You're not like them. It's okay." A few years later, with the same group of friends at a party, I interrupt a conversation. A man of Scottish, Ukrainian, French-Canadian heritage, standing on indigenous land, is talking about the evils of immigration, about how we shouldn't keep letting them in, about how, those Muslims, they just keep trying to come and change our culture. Again, I stop him. I ask him if he realizes who he's speaking to and what he's speaking about. Again, he says, no, it's not about you. You're okay. You're Catholic. You speak English. You're okay. It's them.
Well, I'm sorry. Can I have a mic for a second, please?
Hold on. Who let you talk?
Oh, I have a story.
What kind of freedom land you are from?
Oh, sure. Nuts. Hi, my name is Ilia. I'm coming from a small provincial town in Russia, a drunk snow desert, where by the age of 20, be sure you will have at least one of your classmates overdosed, one in prison. And there, well, I look how I look. It's simple. So it goes. A night bus stop, hey fag. My face goes down to the snow. The only thought that comes to my mind so quickly is, almost at the dog show. For a couple of seconds, they just walk all over me, taking the trophies from my hair. I know that even the slightest attempt to raise my head or stand up, and I will leave the whole night aeronautics jumping all over me. Would be funny to make it a night commercial. Just do it. After beat up the fag session is over, I stood up, spit out the blood, wait for the bus, go home. The next fight is about to start. Mom screams and almost crying. Why do you hate me so much? Why can't you look normal? Do you want to provoke them? Do you know that they actually beat up this guy to death last year? I squeeze my fingers so hard, my nails leave marks on my skin. That actually hurts. I spit out the blood. It's an early morning already. I drink my coffee and go to the bus stop. The next day is coming, and that's going to be a simple one. And just for you to know, guys, there is a bunch of us at Corvinus, so that would be really great if you would try to organize something like that.
Yeah, actually we would be happy to take it to Corvinus. Some people from there. So let's talk about it.
So you realize that chavapi do not grow on trees. Still, that death of the living creature, which must be somebody grabbed, pulled to some surface, probably concrete, throw it on it, pushed its head with the knee to it, while its eyes were wide open, jumping out of its skull, and while all the way it was screaming and kicking, to whom must be somebody then stabbed a knife into the throat, while its body was flooded with stress hormones, aware that it's dying, screaming, wheezing, gasping, twitching. At the end, slowly, while the blood rushed from its throat, until it stopped moving. It stays below the level of your consciousness. Ribs are tasty. I remember my grandfather and how he used to kill pigs with the help of another man who would hold its legs while it would kick strongly. It was not on the countryside, but in the city center in Belgrade, in a park where they would take the pig and kill it. After, they would pierce its legs, open them wide, and put hooks so it can hang from the kid's climber, while its blood would drain in a bucket. They would cut it open and take all its organs. It is normal to see man's hands going through the pig's entrails, taking its organs outside its body. It's just normal. And ribs are tasty. Well, it's banal to say, but pig did not want to die. And it must hurt when the knife gets stabbed into your throat. And immensely stressful when you're aware you will die. Still, we kids, we witness to these scenes all the time. It's normal. Ribs are tasty, and feminists like ribs.
As university student in Prague, I stayed in library long, and it was almost 10 o'clock, and I decided like to go shopping. While I was going among the shelves, I met two skinheads, and one of them he smiled at me. So I did so also. In my mind, I was thinking, I have to go very quickly. I have to pay and I have to vanish. I met them again at the cash desk. I said myself, good, and first I have to escape. When I went out, there were waiting three others, the skinheads. It came the train. Good. I was running. And I took the station, and the station was about 400 meters. And they were running. And I was saying to myself, okay, they were running maybe because they wanted to reach the train. I went on the other side, and they started running to me. And they started yelling, I have you gypsy, and now I got scared. I said to myself, oh, they are chasing me. So I decided really to run. I think that it was the best record in the running, because I'm not talented in the sport. I was running until I was running to my drawing, and they were chasing me exactly to my drawing. I came to my room. I sat on the bed, and I could set any word whole night.
It starts from childhood, when you speak and laugh in the same language with other children, who seem to be good friends on a playground. But then something goes wrong. You know, children are sincerest and the most kind persons, but sometimes they might be cruel as well. One day, they are told by their mothers to keep themselves away from you, and you are attached to this difference, which is based only on your color of your skin. And you are no more equal on the playground. After all, it's hard to hide who you are when the very name is Roma. Clearly, I remember my father's advice, which determined my significant part of my life. He said, you could pretend as much as you can, but no matter how hard you will be trying to be like one of them, they will not perceive you as one of them. Conversely, from my Roma community, into which I was supposed to fit for granted, I was considered unequal as well. I couldn't speak Romani language with them, and it turned out that in one case, you might share one language, but your skin is the obstacle, and in other, vice versa. That's how it feels when you found yourself in a unit.
The truth is, if you've never experienced any of this, or you've never heard of, or you're not associated with anybody that experienced any of this, you might not really feel it this way. But right now, I believe we can all heal the world. How do you heal the world? By having a positive spirit to every issue that is being raised here. Saying no to discrimination, racism, rape, can't keep silent. You just, one song came to me. I don't know if anybody knows it here, but you can just join me while I sing this song. Heal the world, make it a better place for you and for me and the entire human race. There are people dying if you care enough for the living. earlier, I just want to tell you that the world will be a better place for you and for me. Thank you.
World will be a better place. Yeah, of course, sure. So after coming here, the one question that almost all were being asked all the time is that, what do you study? So in my case, whenever I'm being asked that, so yeah, oh, you're studying CEU, that's great. So what do you study? And this question, by the way, for your kind information, I'm being asked here as well. That's a very normal thing, right? So then I say, gender studies. And there's one thing. Wait, what? What do you study? Gender studies? Yes, gender studies. Like gender studies, you mean like gender studies? Yes, that's gender studies. Okay, so you study like feminism and stuff. Yes. Wait, you aren't a feminist, right? You are not. I'm sorry to disappoint you, but yes, I am. And even I was a feminist even before coming to this department, just in case you're curious.
All right, so I moved to a new place, and I'm excited. I mean, I'm not excited because I saw cars. I can see them on TV. I'm also not excited because I saw new buildings, because I also saw those on TV. I was just excited because they had electricity 24/7 and water 24/7. You know what that means? I can take a shower twice a day. It's amazing. And then a couple of months later, I get on the bus. Right before Easter. Yes, right before Easter. So I'm sitting on the bus. This girl comes to me and she's like, "Oh my God, how are you tanned all the time?" So I thought I have two options. First option is that I own a very expensive and very smart tanning machine that I use 6 hours a day, and I put my podcast that says 101 to make brownies. Or maybe I was born this way. You ever thought about that? So 1 week later, Easter happens. This is my first time seeing Easter. So people that I stayed with stayed in the countryside. They told me, okay, you're gonna hide eggs. You go look for them. I'm 15. I'm not now. I was 15. Maybe 15. I was 15 at the time, and they're like, no, go look for eggs. This is your first Easter. I live in the countryside, there's chicken running all the way. How was I know what the eggs are? They're gonna be colored, that's the only difference. Easy. Take it easy. Take it easy. Take it easy. Chill. Take it easy. Take it easy. Chill. Take it easy. Chill. Take it easy.
My dear friend, the long-armed plane tree on the Margaret Island 5 years ago couldn't take it easy anymore. She was standing there for more than 200 years, a little long time. She was watching us, smart humans, and she gave me a call. Peter, there is a call for alternative presidents of Hungary. People can send in videos. I am also a living creature. Would you translate my words? Guess what I said? I said yes. And she became a candidate. She almost made it. She almost became the alternative president of Hungary. She had two main messages. One was that she said, you know, to me, it's a tree, all humans look pretty much the same, regardless of their skin color or the shape of their nose. And the other thing I would like to tell, Peter, please translate, she told me, that I observed that somehow human character cannot really stand power. So I read the story of Ulysses, she told me. She got himself tied on the boat to be protected against his own character failure. And so she offered to humans that if they get power, they can visit her in the Margaret Island, get themselves tied to her tree trunk, and have a conversation with her, with the 200 years of her wisdom standing there, not moving her on the log, but saying many things about power and human character.
She was deemed guilty when the young man ended his own life, out of love, before tormenting her, himself, and the law. What does it take to love? How much is your love? Do you have the courage to love? Do you respect me first so you can really love? Do you have the courage to think that love is not about belonging, but perhaps only connecting? A patriarchal love, or no love. The lands of Mediterranean, Anatolia, Mesopotamia are full of love stories, legends, and songs that end under the sod. Lands filled up with the blood of women. Long after Cybele, the mother of gods, Inanna, Ishtar, Artemis, or Nemesis, the others of love, fertility, war, and revenge, left our imaginations and religions. As for me, I haven't given up on the hope of love in these lands, the lands of also the goddesses. I am determined to push the boundaries of your religion, of your culture, and of your love, so that I can make them mine, also mine.
I'm realizing that I've given so much credit to the ways I've been wronged. For years, I have crouched over my past, untangling the trauma, trying to sew myself back together, starting over every time I missed a stitch. Over Sunday Skype conversations with my sisters and I diving into each other's mouths to undrown our shared past, talking about, remember the kitchen massacre? The mirror he broke over your back? Or was it my back? Confirming scars and times of death. Memories we flipped upside down to float on their backs until we learn how to swim with the confused current, but we keep circling down empty drains. When I realize that time is a fair thief, it glosses over the good, the bad, the ugly, and my past leaves me unconsidered. Forgetting again becomes my only bead of worship. When I finally realize that I've forgotten to say grace to the ways I've been unbearably loved, that my life has been as extraordinary as it has been excruciating, that I've been running from and towards strangers' irrational kindness, terrified of getting accustomed to joy in a miserable certainty. When I finally realize that forgetting is only a side effect of surviving the lives we have to bury to make this one livable. What I mean to say is, one must feel to remember.
People make you famous. People make you famous in our country. For example, I once caught the eye of this famous filmmaker. Yeah, I mean, he didn't ask me to play a role in his films. Now, I'm not that good of an actor because I can't act much. I say what I feel like saying. This guy wanted to make me famous because, like I do, I portray my country in poor light. Yeah, because I tell people that bad things about our army. The brave soldiers who are defending our borders from our enemies. I sometimes happen to tell that sometimes they end up raping people, killing people, burning villages, portraying the country in bad light. Because, you know, India is a democracy, you see, a democracy where bad things like sex toys are banned, but marital rape is legal. Yes, my friends. Earlier today, some girls in a school in my city got reprimanded by the school authorities because they were suspected to be lesbians. But you see, political science data sets say that India is not a defective democracy. We are the world's largest democracy.
Are you an amoeba or a unicorn? Is it just a phase of the harsh self-imposed celibacy, mental instability, of not feeling like doing this? Was it a bad childhood experience? An unfulfilled relationship? Or is this how all these feminist type women turn out to be? Don't you ever feel like doing it? Who knows? You might start liking it. Such a pity to see your youth going down the drain. What a waste. And such a waste. Don't you think it's insensitive to keep your beloved deprived? To love your lover only in parts, only in spirit? If only people could understand that my asexuality is not an imposition, not a phase, not a pretense, and not your business. But your concern, enshrouded as awkward questions, piercing gaze, offending remarks, an unwanted groping and thorny touch, guised as experiment, is violent. It is violent.
I arrived to Hungary just about 3 years ago. One of the first things that I learned about this country came to me from a coworker. About this city, really. He said, never sit on the 4-6 tram. The seats are so dirty because they allow homeless and gypsies on it. When I heard this, about 2 weeks into my stay here, I was shocked. I'd actually never heard someone be so blatantly and unapologetically racist. But a few months later, if you do the math, 3 years ago, it was 2015, and it was the middle of the refugee crisis here. Me coming with all my Canadian ideals, I guess, I tried to organize something in the office, some sort of drive to bring some food, some blankets to the refugees. My coworkers, they disagreed with me. They said, Valerie, you don't understand. You're new here. This is about politics. These people, they don't need it. It's not true. You know, 3 years ago, there were posters all over the city. I didn't understand them back then, but I understand them now. And I grow tired of every time I leave my house seeing messages that say that Hungary doesn't want people that look like me. Hungary doesn't want people like my friends. I grow tired of seeing my friends have to leave the city because the microaggressions, the racism, the comments at work, they get unbearable. They get tired of spending money in this city, in this country, when we're not welcome. When people like me, and like my friends, we're not welcome.
Okay, so Cevapi pleskăiță sarma slajna pršta. Cevapi pleskăiță sarma slajna pršta. Cevapi pleskăiță sarma slajna pršta. Slajna pršta. Sarma slajna pršta. So it's hard to think about these images about something extraordinary. So what? They killed some pigs and sheep, and millions are killed every day. And anyway, there are not so many opportunities when you have to think about animal suffering and death in our society. There are though a little bit more opportunities to think about the suffering and death of women, about the fact that every third woman was sexually harassed, suffered some violence, suffered some unwanted man's big hand on her body, which was violently manipulated and hurt. There are a little bit more opportunities to think about the fact that some man grabbed some girl for her thin legs, pulled her to some ground, maybe concrete, pinned her down with his grown-up body, stabbed his penis in it, while maybe her eyes were wide open, jumping out of her skull, while maybe she screamed and kicked, while his large and heavy hands were holding her down. Maybe her body, flooded with stress hormones, was just twitching in silence while he was pushing her while coming, and while she was laying there with her legs open as with hooks, as a dead pig hanging from the kid's climber. That's normal. At the end, women's or animals' meat is meat. Now, is it the same to eat cevapi and to rape girls and boys and adult women? No, it's not. Still, is there something which is creepily similar and about which so often there is no room to think about, even among the ones who see themselves as agents of justice, on the side of subaltern and weak, who say they love animals, who have them as pets? We attuned ourselves to the suffering of many marginalized subjects. There is hermeneutical pool from which we can draw our subtle understanding of what one woman can go through on her date with a guy like Aziz Ansari, without him doing anything illegal. There must be a possibility to attune ourselves also for the suffering and pain of the ones who cannot and will never be able to say me too, if speech is what matters at all.
On Christmas Eve, the policeman came to our place because I had been attacked with my colleagues and with the children while we were coming from the rehearsal to hotel, and we entered the street, which was dark and there was no lighting. And some group of unknown people attacked us, and so because of this, the policeman they came to pick me up. When we came to the office at the station, the interview, his speech totally changed. He started speaking informally. He gave me a paper and he said, "Here you should read about the right and do it, please. Do it, please, very fastly, because we don't have time. And here you should put a signature. I was surprised. He said at the computer, okay, your name, your address, what are you doing? You might be unemployed. I said, no, I'm a student. Student? You? It is, you are attending some special school? I said, no, I studied in Prague. What do you do there? I study Romanist studies at Charles University in Prague. He stayed there voiceless. After he said, oh, Mr. Mishgar, excuse me, I'm so sorry. I didn't want like to act like myself like this. And the interrogation, it was changed in a feel-good interview. Later he wanted to offer me tea and some pop, and he said, we should be people because we are having the Christmas. After I gave all my evidences, he also offered me he would like to drive me home. I said, no, thank you very much. I will go on foot. What could be happening if I would be only the Roma without education?
I would like to share with you an interesting phenomenon. So, both in Russian and Ukrainian, the word gypsy as a word means to steal or to beg. And as you might understand, that's what the attitude of the majority of society towards Roma. And what does it mean in practice? So, it was the first aspect once someone lost something. So, at some point, you became used to these weird looks from the people you assumed to trust you. But surprisingly, statistics, as well as science, and the number of crimes committed by Roma per 100% is less than by the predominant nation. And because we are so visible, it's our destiny to defend ourselves to our ends. And I have a question, how I can blame someone's otherness, someone's blindness towards us as Roma? Because one day I had the same prejudice as someone of them, but perhaps someone's world is just as narrow as mine was one day. And it's easy to see what you want and not to see from other angles. The hard path is to question yourself on an everyday basis, whether you're not using this easy way to feel power, which other people give you, without their consent. I know that empathy hurts, but once you experience a little bit of diversity, you cannot allow yourself such a luxury as not feeling empathy towards others and not being critical towards yourself.
Not only has she been scarred, not only has she been mentally abused, not only has she been brought shame, but she decided that it was time to find redemption. She decided it was time to walk down the memory lane and figure out how her world came crumbling. And she remembered those days that they were never allowed to go downstairs to play with anybody. She remembered how her father had used a knife in place of a cane, and how her sister spent 2 months in the hospital. She remembered how he moved out from the house and went back to the village, leaving the mother alone with all the kids. She remembered that cold night when the police came for her brother. What did he do? His only crime was because he came from a very poor family. For 5 years, he was in shackles for a crime he did not commit. He was accused of kidnapping and also accused of murdering an inmate. And all this, there were not even a single proof. For 5 years, the mother fought for ways for him to regain freedom. 5 years of a man's life washed down the grave for a crime he did not commit. You can never buy time. And his only crime was because he wasn't from a privileged background. The truth is, all these things have effect, especially when you're training up a child. Even they say train up a child in the way that he should grow, so that when he grows, he will not depart from it. We as parents, we have a lot to do. We as parents, we need to train our children right, so that when they grow up, they won't repeat the same mistakes that others did. Thank you.
Identity, once again. Identity again. So whenever I go out of my country, the first question that I'm being always asked is that, so which part of India are you from? And I say, no, I'm not from India, I'm from Bangladesh. Yeah, but that's still a part of India, right? No. We do share borders, but we are not a part of India. Okay, wait. So that's not in India? No. Bangladesh is an independent nation and sovereign country.
Okay, so remember when I told you I could look 15? So I go to a tobacco store. Goes to guy, can I have some, what? He says, stop. Okay, it's not my country, I don't know what to do. It's like, let me see your ID. Sure, I give him my ID. Takes my ID, looks at it, gives it back, and he's all pissed off. He's like, what do you want? I just want water. So he goes, gets the water, come back. He's like, I'm like, why are you pissed? He's like, oh, how come are you older than me? I don't know. Maybe I've been eating avocados and you haven't. I don't know. It's crazy. So, one more story. Yes. Okay, so I'm on the airport. I'm with a friend of mine. He's from Finland. Couldn't get any wider. So, I prepared myself when I go to the airport. I grow my hair, I get my guitar, I wear a tie. I go to TSA. He's with me, wearing sweatpants, t-shirt, coffee stains, and flip-flops. Walks through TSA. Nothing. I take my belt, take my shoes, take my socks. Walk like this. Bam, 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 goes up. Come on, let me talk to you for a second. What's going on? This is a random check. I grabbed in my ass. Okay. Go ahead, do what you gotta do. You're the officer of the law. I'm just trying to fly away. So he checks me. He's like, what are you gonna check for? He's like, narcotics. I'm like, really? You let him go. He's wearing sweatpants. I'm wearing jeans and a tie. You let him go. That's a wrap.
People are walking another morning. What are they doing? Are they daydreaming? Here is a woman. She's lost in her mind. talking to a man, never, never mind.
Yeah, me, my love, it's so much easier to write about love than about hate. Don't you think that one smile can shine through prejudice and hate?
You say that you can't hate me and tell your parents because I'm a non-violent human rights activist. Could you tell them I'm a gypsy? Could you tell them I'm a Jew? Could you tell them I'm a Muslim or a refugee?
Could you tell them I'm a refugee? Could you tell them I'm a migrant? What would they say if I had brown or black skin? What would they say if I were an earthly? What would they if I had a nose like yours? Tell me what would they say? What would they say?
Would your people punish you more for our sacred love? If you were a girl, would they burn you as a witch? Would they cut your hair or stone you to death?
What would your people do to you if you were gay? My people, I'm not sure about my people. What would they say if I was one of those whom they animalize, plantize, dehumanize, while not even apologize?
When you say it's so human, you mean hatred of the other. You mean cruelty and darkness. You mean fear of freedom.
Or you mean sharing respect. You mean learning from the other. You mean joyful life. You mean freedom from fear.
What would they say if they knew that we made love? Huh? What would they say if they knew that I wanted you to make love?
What would they say
if they saw that we are so different? Would they understand that we are the same? Same as the water in the river.
Same as the water in the river.
And the leaves on beautiful trees.
The leaves on beautiful trees.
As people on the New York subway.
People on the New York subway.
What would they think and what would they say?
Same as leaves on beautiful trees.
Don't be afraid of masters.
I could go to school.
ومحدش مهتم.
Humanity is a completed project.
Diversity is powerful, let's celebrate it.
What I mean to say is, And remember kids, a brown person is not a tan person.
Take your bus, whatever it takes.
Nah, come on, it was just a joke. Don't take it so seriously.
Women's or animals' meat is meat.
And then, Nana, your nationalism ain't shutting me up.
Where there is violence, there is no love. There can never be love.
Can you push the boundaries of your religion and your love?
Love is just a verb.
Thank you so much for coming to actually the class. Peter Mészáros, the Hungarian slam poetry champion this year. Thank you so much for coming. Mihal. Coming.
And Peter Molnar.
Yes. Thank you so much all, and I would like to thank also Peter Pavlich for helping to record, and also the whole very nice crew at the classroom support and campus service at CEU and others who helped, Chris and Fatih, and the piano rector, Michael. And now the time is for some questions and comments. And perhaps if the performers would like to share some short additional reflections, but afterwards we can continue at the little reception. So questions, comments. Anybody? So do people have some questions, comments? Yeah, the cast, maybe you can sit down out there on the stage. Anybody? A so-called ice-breaking question, if there is any ice? Yeah, okay.
Thank you so much, everyone. I don't know how much courage it actually takes to be there and not here and to tell real life stories. Personally, each and all of you want to thank you for really fantastic start of the week, and perhaps I really hope for some of those people who are not leaving yet, perhaps chapter of new life, perceptions, views, things that you see around, people you see around yourself. I have a question, I guess. How many times you on your own actually had to rehearse, because those monologues were so powerful, and I think it took really some time to really train yourself to in front of the mirror, I guess, and then be able to see faces right here. So perhaps one or two you could share secret how to perform in public and actually open up completely from inside out. Thank you so much, and thank you.
Thank you for the question. So please.
any of you, some of you would respond to this.
Yeah, thank you for your kind words from everyone here. Thank you for your kind words from everyone here. Now everyone can hear. I think the optimal times of rehearsal is 4.5. I mean, the half is just to practice the flow, but more than that, it becomes static. It's really the writing that takes the time, but the performance, at least in my experience, 4.5 is enough. Unless someone disagrees with me.
Years.
Oh, performing years, yeah. Rehearsing 4.5, yeah.
4.5 what?
4.5 times. I have to use a unit, right? Yes. I have to use a unit. Okay. Alright.
Any others? Yes, please.
I just like to respond. It's not like that I cannot like measure into unit. Just like to point out the point just you mentioned that it's like it really takes a lot of courage, but then again, when you think that this is not right, probably that's the time you need to step out. Because for each of us, what we shared was definitely in one point or another was not right. So, and when we realize that, and it's very important for us to decide that we need to step out of it. So, yeah, for me that worked.
Yes, like actually I'm not a performer myself. Like in general I don't do these elocution, slam poetry, acting or all these things. So for me that way it was not so difficult. But the thing is that I was basically talking about life stories and my life experiences, and the fact that some girls got reprimanded in their school for being suspected of being lesbian, that is something which happened earlier today. So that was not a part of the rehearsal. I just improvised and added it. And when this happened in November, I was asked by Peter and others to perform, but I was kind of hesitant because I would be speaking in just normal prose, not in any poetry, no song, and I can't do all that. So that's why I hesitated and I didn't perform in November. And the other reason being that I consider myself to be really privileged because of a lot of things. Compared to the people back home, people who have sacrificed much more than I have, people who face much more oppression and violence than I do, I kind of feel that, really, should I actually say this? But then I thought that this is a country where they don't study India so much, and the impression that they have about India is very different. Like only the good things about India they know. There is very little about the dark side of a very degenerated, nominally democratic setup that people get to know. In fact, our political science classify India as a full-fledged democracy. I thought that these things needed to come out. So,
just shortly, I would just like to add that it's sometimes very scary when you want to speak by yourself to like a huge audience. But I just want to say that it's very important to be in a group and to have a support in the group. And this space actually is one of the rare spaces on CEU, which is mainly like your individual work, you're studying alone usually. And this is one of the rare opportunities when you can get together and actually speak about the things that troubling you. So this is like open and free space for anybody actually to join. Not, I mean, you could easily join. I mean, you know, people are hesitant, but you know, at the last moment they would jump in. So if you feel that it's safe to speak, that's the point. I think the CEU is a good surrounding in that sense because it allows you this free space and it's kind of a safe place. Yeah.
Anybody else from the performers would add something to this question?
Basically, for me, it's was my experience, or it's been my experience as a lawyer to be able to like think on my feet and all that, not just thinking. I was in adult 15 when he sent me an email around 11, and literally everything was, I had to, because we experienced most of this, you've seen them, it's just so easy for you to like put everything together because this is where you've been and you're just coming out to becoming a better person, so it's just easy for you.
Yeah, actually, maybe just like for fun, this story that we almost performed together with Ilia at an open mic at CEU. So we had each other's emails already, and we were like interested in performing already. But then finally, she didn't perform there. And then one day we were traveling just one floor in the another 15 elevator, and she was singing. So guess what I did? I asked her, would you? And she was interested in it, so she gave me her email, and I was typing the email in, and it came up. And it came up in my Gmail because we were on a common email in the open mic planned performers anyway, so that was just, so sometimes one floor elevator ride singing is the way to get it. But anyway, so really, as was said, all of you are so welcome, and with Ilia and Valerie, we think about planning to take it to Corvinus. Some people from CEU could come over there, and we would find some other performance there. And here I mentioned, by the way, that Ilia was handling all the slideshow as well. So thank you, Ilia, for that. So further responses, comments? Anybody from here for this question? And then, if not, then I ask whether there are some more questions. Yes, here, please.
Thanks again, everyone, for the great performances. And what I was asking myself as I saw you perform was that you obviously have your own stories, life stories, day stories. Did performing it or telling your story change you at all, or change the way you live your own story? Like, have you learned anything from it?
I reveal the secret that this question comes from a performer. Yes, I'm sorry. Yeah, it's okay.
Well, I think it does change you when you step on to a stage or to a place where you can give words to whatever you have been through. And I think the very act of coming up and speaking is a political act of accepting that, something has been done to you, you have been wronged, you accept for yourself that, what happened was not right. And the moment you say that thing, I think personally it's like, getting something off your head. It's like, it's taking it off. There has been something which is always inside you, and the very act that you speak it up is the time when you realize that you're exercising your own agency of realizing the pain which has happened to you. And this is what we try to do over here. To not only do it for ourselves, but to also help in making anyone else out there realize that, if there's something we all are going through, it's very important to stand up and speak up for it, if not for anybody else, then for my own self.
I can also perhaps add that I think, yes, it had an effect on me. I participated in Hate Speech Monologues since 2014, several, not all the performances, but some time to time. And in a way, when I think about it, I think it's helped to sharpen my focus in life. Because I was writing for myself, for my own, for my diary, whatever, but to perform here and also to hear other stories, but like it forces you to think about what is most important for you in your life and what has been the most significant moments in your life and what do you want after. In a way, so what I write, sometimes I write from my own perspective, like let's say as a woman, and it's helped to focus. I think it's helped to sharpen also my academic focus, like to bring my academic focus and non-academic works together. Yeah, I think it helped me to divert myself better in the path that I have chosen.
For me, for the second part of my performance, it was very hard because I expect people, I don't expect people outside the CEU or people from other places would know about gender studies and stuff and things like that. But that's completely okay with me. But in CEU, where we all vouch for like open society and freedom of speech and things like that, so when my fellow students from other department, they just, that means that's gender studies, that's what? And I just said, that's gender studies. So all this idea that made me, I was very confused whether to perform this or not because I was standing in CEU platform and saying things that I have been encountered in CEU by my fellow students and sometimes like people who are doing their PhDs and things like that. So I learned that it's okay. It's okay. And also when I was sharing it, so people were like, yeah, this happened, so it's okay. So it's not always that, it's also playing or learning through your expectation that probably not everyone is having the same, even they're standing on the same platform. Because mine is a bit tricky thing. It's a complex thing. It does not work for everyone in a same way. So I learned that, and it was important for me to just perform that and let this out of me.
Yeah, I encourage those performers, I don't mean to push anybody, but who haven't spoken yet, to add some of their reflections to either of these two questions. Good? Any of you?
Yeah.
Or, yeah, please.
I wanted to say, when Peter approached me about this, I'm not from CEU, I was just at an event, and he was like, oh, you should participate. I was trying to think of what I would say, and I was like, well, I don't really have anything. Nobody's really, it's not been that violent in my experiences. And in the first rehearsal, hearing everyone else tell their stories, it's like, wow, that's some heavy stuff. But in a way, it's helped me validate some of my own feelings. Because even if they were microaggressions or just jokes, they did have an impact in who I was back then and who I am now. So it's quite cathartic in a way. And then also the last story I shared, or sort of the last set of stories, I wasn't planning on sharing any of that. I was going to go with stuff from far away, from my past, but just last week, on the weekend, I was seeing what that politician, the Fidesz politician, said in Vienna about the immigrants there. And I was feeling so angry and so frustrated that I came here and it was a cool space to actually put it on stage and see you guys also nodding along. So yeah, it's really powerful.
Yes, thank you. Others? Maybe would you add anything?
I think like the act of just writing it down helps you out with you have an issue like it's really troubling you, but you don't really what's going on with you. But like when you put it down on paper, that's an act of like letting it down. Like it clears everything within you. Performing it is something else. When you perform it, like you lose little part of this connection, this privacy with this aspect of good. Because once you let it out of your mouth and you look at people's reactions to it, some people laugh, some people cry, some people hate it, some people love it. It adds with whatever how you feel with it. So it's complicated how we did. I don't know what you guys think about. Like how would you look at your experience? Like what the element of are you like kind of commercializing a very private experience? What do you guys think?
I'll respond to that. Gosh, the way that, I mean, as you can see, I write very personal shit, and it's always depends on the crowd, you know. Sometimes I get good energy from people, sometimes I just shut down on stage when I feel like I'm being misunderstood, so I feel like it's really hard for me to say this stuff on stage because I'm not, in my private life, my personal life, I'm not someone who shares trauma or things with people, you know? So it's kind of like, okay, this is going to be a confession, and after this, you're going to know everything about me. So it's difficult when I start thinking about, okay, who's gonna be there, are they gonna take it well? You know, I just trip myself, so I don't do that. But yeah, getting on, there's like a climbing out of grief when I get on stage. As much as I rehearse it to myself or say it to myself, it's not the same, because there's like a laying yourself bare literally in front of strangers. And there's there's a sincerity, there's like a vibration of a spoken experience, you know, when you feel the energy within you. And I feel softer, I feel much softer after performing, less hardened, you know, less defensive. But it all depends on the crowd, so.
Can I also perhaps respond to this question? If anyone doesn't. It's a very right point, because you're right, we all here share our personal stories, and whether it's like commercializing, selling our story for the show or something. Exactly. Yes, very right feeling. Yes, sometimes I feel the same, like whether I should not expose this much, and what's the point? What's the point of it? But personally, I think in my case, in some of my writings or poems, I feel like I think I write for people who experience perhaps a similar thing, but they are not aware of it. And then perhaps if they listen to a perspective that's a different perspective, then they can realize that they shouldn't blame themselves, for example. Other times when I don't write too personal, when I write about, for example, like Nirjar, in the other shows I wrote about as a Turkish person, how Kurdish people may feel in my country, and that's another experience. I think then I don't feel like commercializing. Yeah. That's another. Yeah, I think it changes by story to story. Like I meant like you, as the privileged person, you spoke about the rights of others. That's what I tried to do once. Don't you say?
I would like to say that some stories of people around me were so touching and so personal that at some point I felt that I don't have right to speak. It's funny, but I have to admit that I failed. So, as you put here, my story was pretty much universal, general, and to some extent about morals. Not about the past, not about something personal, too much personal. And I think that I have to say thanks to Peter, because he convinced me. I was such dick, I was rejecting like hundreds times to perform. But a few days ago, with such a sincere person as Peter, it's very hard to reject him. And but I fall into a trap of being scared and not to expose something personal. But I was today we were not sleeping with my good friend, and we were discussing whether other people might ever feel exactly the same what you feel. And we were not sure, actually. Now I'm hesitating more, because I think that I feel some people, and it was, I'm missing some words, but I want to say it in that sense, really, because I think that I can speak for myself. I think that I performed to make known for others something that my friends, my people in my country who hold Roma identity face on everyday basis. So for me it matters, even though it's hard to define myself, because as you might heard, the more diversity you meet, the less barriers and constraints you have. So, fuck the barriers. And I think, no, sorry, Peter, I'm gonna ask. I think that all our stories, they were for ourselves, because I think that pretty much each of us had something very deep inside us, which couldn't let us sleep, and to know these kind of things. And I wouldn't call it selling, I would say exposing it really helps. It really helps, even though I admit it was not my very personal story, but I feel so much with it. And thank you guys.
Thank you, and Michal and Ilia haven't spoken yet, so if you can add something. So for these two questions, or either of them, that how did you decide, how did you take the courage, if it took some courage to perform, and how the experience of performing had an impact on you?
I decided to join because I was here when he was last performing in November, I think it was, and I said I was very impacted by this, and I said myself, it is something what I like, and I would like to share also the stories of the life of Roma people in the Czech Republic, and I decided like, because of this, and I'm very grateful that I had this opportunity, because during the rehearsal, when you are listening like to people, when they open like their heart, and you have opportunity to see it, it is something very nice, and I think that we should do all, because when we see it, we understand it, and it brings the important understanding between the people. Because, of course, we have different religions, we have different cultures, languages, but for me it is like very big, message. All of us, we are human, and we are all the same. And it was very strong for me, like, to sit there, because I felt the so big energy that it was very nice, and I am very glad that I had this opportunity.
Yeah. Well, again, yeah, as well. I think I can open a secret. That was part of the performance, me being here by chance, but that's actually how I got involved, by chance. So I just saw the poster, I posted on Facebook saying that would be nice to organize it in Corvinus. And Valerie, my friend, she was already participating, and she just wrote me like, hey, yeah, you can help with the PowerPoint. So that's how it starts. And here I should say thank you to all of you, because people encouraged me basically to perform, because I really thought I had nothing to say. At a certain point I still think so, because, well, I'm in a quite comfortable position anyway. And yeah, I guess this is the first time I'm performing something like that. And I'm now speaking just from myself personally, like finding, it was not a very comfortable experience reliving it again. So sort of, I never put it on paper, but just like thinking about it and put it in words wasn't as comfortable, though as a person who grew up where I grew up, you certain, like at a certain level accepted, knowing, even knowing all the evils of that's life there. It's, well, I hope it will change, but unlikely. And well, still, I mean, I kind of find maybe some, it feels better, like, it's a question a little bit, and to find the power in some really ugly things and to turn it into something maybe strong. It's a good thing, I guess, and it feels at least not bad. You know? So yeah, that's probably all.
Because I was participating a few times,